It was the outbreak and massive recall that led to multiple congressional hearings, a criminal investigation, and ultimately the passage of the biggest food safety-related law in the United States since the 1930s. I'm talking about the Salmonella-related outbreak and recall tied to the Peanut Corporation of America. Hello, I'm Jason Huffman, Editor-in-Chief of Food Chemical News. Welcome to the Knife and Fork Show. Joining me today is Sonali Gunawardhana, who has been a very well-respected food regulation attorney at the Washington, D.C. firm of Wiley Rein for almost a year now. But before that, she spent almost 10 years as an attorney at FDA. Sonali recently gave a presentation where she talked about the outbreak and recall linked to Peanut Corporation of America, which sickened more than 700 people, killing 9, and led to more than 3,900 peanut-related product recalls by 200 companies in 2009. And also, she talked about a more recent recall related to Sunland Inc., a New Mexico company. Sonali, Peanut Corporation of America, major, explosion in 2009 of food recall outbreak situation. And you were at the FDA when this was going on, correct?
I was.
Talk a little bit about some of the more sensational aspects of what happened at PCA and maybe what set that event apart from other types of recalls or outbreaks.
Well, it was a hard recall to figure out, actually pinpoint where it was coming from, simply because PCA was an ingredient that was used in so many different products, and people were getting sick from so many different products. It took the CDC a while to figure out exactly where it was coming from. PCA did not have good operating procedures in place. And there were several companies that would go out and look at PCA and say, we're not doing business with this supplier. This is not a supplier we want to do business with. And so some of the major players did not use their products, while other suppliers, smaller suppliers that maybe did not have the resources to go out and look and see what was going on at PCA, went ahead and used their product. Now, when FDA went in and inspected, they saw major problems. There were holes in the roof, there was water dripping in, there were birds, rats, all the things that would lead to a food sanitation issue. And more importantly, PCA would do its own testing. They did get back positive results for Salmonella. They decided that they weren't, they would just retest and maybe fudge the numbers a little bit and go ahead.
About the sensational aspects of this. That was one of them.
Right, and so they decided they would, maybe doctor some of the information, and they made, certifications to, the people who were buying peanut products from them. They said, this is absolutely a good product. We stand by it. And the bottom line is, they knew they were sending out tainted product. So it was problematic, and the agency at the time had very limited regulatory authority to do anything beyond, just going out and inspecting and maybe issuing a warning letter and trying to get them to do a voluntary recall. FSMA changed everything for the agency, and this is one of those issues that really kind of pushed FSMA through. I think that the American consumer loves its peanut butter. And it affected, really affected. I mean, most people eat peanut butter are kids, and
Right.
if you're harming children, that's problematic, and the agency does not like that, and the American public won't stand for it.
My recollection was one of the Obama family members was actually a big fan of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, correct?
Yes. Oh, I believe his second daughter, Sasha.
Yeah.
So, it is a big issue when you have peanut, and it was peanut butter product, so it wasn't even the finished ingredient. It was going into so many different ingredients, such as cookies, products such as cookies, cake mixes, even dog treats. So it was only affecting humans. It was affecting animals.
I remember one of the large manufacturers that was sourcing those peanuts ended up having to report a several $1 million loss as a result of Peanut Corporation of America.
Yeah, it was. I think the largest loss for industry to date was.
And of course, the whole peanut business lost sales.
Yeah, it suffered, and I think a lot of people were a little bit more apprehensive when doing business with other peanut manufacturers.
Now, you already mentioned FSMA. How does FSMA? First of all, what steps has the FDA taken on its own to prevent another PCA situation from happening, and how does FSMA change the ballgame so that this doesn't happen again?
Well, I think the agency has done quite a bit of outreach. They do have educational program. Like you could go to the website and you could find out more about different foods and learning how to be safe when you eat. The agency has really put the onus on food companies, manufacturers, to make sure that their foods are safe for the American consumer. So FSMA shifted this and gave the agency more power to say to companies, you need to come up with the plan. And the preventative controls rule, the proposed rule, is a great outline of what's to come. It's really the agency saying to food manufacturers, you need to come up with a food safety plan, and you need to come up with corrective actions should your food safety plan not work. So it's really saying to the companies, you know, FDA only has limited resources. We can't be everywhere all the time. You need to be checking on your products. You need to be verifying that what you're doing is keeping your food safe. You should be testing. You should be doing certain things to ensure that your product is safe before you ship it out the door. And that's saying to the, and the agency saying, we're partnering this. We're partners in this.
Yeah.
We expect you guys to do your part. We have limited resources. We're going to come out and inspect, and we're going to do that when we get complaints, and we have to do that because of the limited resources, allocate to where it's most needed.
Right. That's a significant change, and it's only been proposed so far. It may take several years before we actually get a final rule on that. But immediately when FSMA went into effect, FDA got some new authorities that they could actually stop products. And I believe, when did the record-keeping access go into effect?
It went into effect right away.
Yeah.
So basically, the agency was able, in the beginning, before FSMA was implemented, the agency could only really ask for one line. So if there was, you know, when they went out to PCA, they said, can we get, you know, your records from this or from this particular batch of peanut butter? But they couldn't ask for the other lines and the other, you know, areas where peanut butter products were being made, and it hampered their ability to really figure out what was going on there. Things changed. Sunland actually was, I think they recognized that the agency had far more power. They could ask for more records.
Sunland was the case that happened in 2010?
Yeah.
And it was another big peanut producer?
Yeah, in New Mexico.
Right.
And this was easier for them to target because most of the reports that went into the CDC said it was from Trader Joe's peanut butter products, finished peanut butter products that people were getting sick from. So
we just talked about traceability in the earlier segment. This is an example of traceability actually working. They follow it back from the retailer to the manufacturer.
Yeah, so it was a little bit easier because it wasn't in, I mean, it turned out that it was in a lot of other products, but you know, it was quicker to find because it was a finished product that, you know, when they got the phone calls, people complaining said, yes, I bought Trader Joe's peanut butter and I'm ill from it. And so, you know, basically the CDC said, oh, it's coming from Trader Joe's, so maybe we need to go directly to Trader Joe's to figure out. And they worked with the FDA and said, okay, this is where we think it's coming from. And there's a partnership there between the CDC and the FDA to work on these, you know, foodborne illnesses and these outbreaks. So it was a little bit easier, and the agency was able to take swifter action because of it. The agency definitely said, okay, we've got some greater powers here, but we're, you know, and the nice thing was that Sunland actually worked with the agency. PCA,
right, that was one of the big differences too.
Right. PCA pretty much said, no, we're not going to give you anything, and made it difficult. Sunland, I think, recognized that this new law was implemented and wanted to work with the agency, and you see that more with really good companies. They're more readily apt to be collaborative with the agency and try to figure out what's going on. So Sunland decided that that's what they wanted to do, and the agency was able to work with them. It didn't mean that they didn't suspend their registration. They did, and that was one of the new powers that the agency got because of FSMA.
Right.
I think a lot of people were like, they suspended them and quickly they got off a suspension, but what people don't know is that Sunland entered into a consent decree, and that actually gave the agency more power over Sunland to make sure that they were doing the things they need to do.
There's a list of stipulations of things that Sunland has to do,
right,
and someone is going to be checking that against that list to make sure that they're actually complying.
Yes.
Which is ideal for an agency, correct?
Right, and so it's really saying to Sunland, this is your product, you have to do certain things to make sure it's safe for, you know, the American consumer, and Sunland said okay.
What next in terms of regulatory changes at the FDA as a result of the Peanut Corporation of America? What do you think the preventive controls are going to come? Should we look for anything else?
Well, I think you should look at all the rules. I think a lot of people are a little upset with the agency that they didn't propose all four of the majors together, what they call the big four, because they really play off of each other. And I think that it's going to be hard for industry to react to some of these proposed rules without seeing all of them. But the reality is they are going to have to comment, and they are going to have to tell the agency exactly what they want for their future. I think the one thing is that the food industry is going to see a much more aggressive agency as they move forward, because now they actually have regulatory tools. They can charge to reinspect. They can charge for recalls. They can even ask for mandatory recalls, something they didn't have before. But of course, they're going to ask for a voluntary recall before they ask for a mandatory recall.
Well, I know one thing. You're going to be busy, and I'm going to have a lot to write about.
That's right.
That's it. Out of time. Thanks to Sonali. Thank you, our viewers. See you again soon. Gunawardhana. So I practiced it like 25 times saying it the other way.
Sorry.
So now it's like programmed in my brain.
You can say it the other way too. It doesn't matter.
Gunawardhana. Say it again.
Gunawardhana.
Gunawardhana.
You can say it whatever way. I really don't care.
No, I'll get it right. I don't say it right.